we'd like to know that you are here so that we can make sure to get you addenda. Should be issuing that addenda tomorrow. There are going to be some changes to the plans as well, so we may have to delay that addendum until Thursday morning. Try to get it out tomorrow. All the addenda correspondence is by email with me or the other two guys here. My email is included with this document. We will also be posting this to the city website and giving it to BidNet and giving it to WCCA as well. So look for that addenda in the next day or two. Project details, we designed the project, we're going to manage the construction, and we're going to inspect. So no CDOT involvement or anything like that. It's all city of Fruita. Going to go through the project summary here. Sure, you can all read it, but I'll read it too. Consists of the removal and replacement of existing sanitary sewer facilities and installation of dry utility conduit in the intersection of Maple Street and Aspen Avenue, and along Maple Street between Paver Avenue and McCune Avenue here in Fruita. Work includes, but is not limited to, installation and maintenance of traffic control, removal of existing asphalt, concrete, sanitary sewer lines and manholes, removal and resetting of existing manholes, installation of new sewer manholes, 8-inch sewer main line and 4-inch service laterals, installation of dry utility conduit, required bypass pumping for sewer, stormwater and groundwater mitigation and management, including any permitting that may be necessary. Asphalt patching and overlay, concrete curb gutter, sidewalk, drainage pan, and ramp replacement. We do want to note, not to scare people off, but as with all projects in the Fruita area, seems like the soil does change from location to location. We have variable and possibly unstable soil conditions, and groundwater are expected to be encountered during the work along Maple Street and in Aspen. We do have a couple groundwater wells out there that we can measure. We've measured it this winter, comes in at about 7 feet below ground surface. So that you probably will be dealing with some groundwater and wet conditions when you're digging. All dewatering and stormwater management will be the contractor's responsibility. We do have a bid item in the bid schedule for water management, so we want to make sure that you're aware. Prepare for that. It may be needed. So I'll make sure that that's accounted for in your bid. Contractors should be aware no extension of contract dates will be granted due to failure to manage those conditions. I'll go through the construction schedule. Pre-bid meeting is today. Obviously, questions deadline tomorrow at noon. Anything that comes in after that, we will not answer. So make sure you get your questions in by noon tomorrow. We were hoping to issue the addenda by the end of the day tomorrow because there's some revisions in the plans. It may take until Thursday morning. We'll try to get that out as soon as possible. Bid opening is this Friday. We don't have a link for that yet, but we're going to develop it here and we will issue that link in the addenda again tomorrow or Thursday. Notice of award is going to be Monday after the bid, provided everything comes in okay. We're going to try to get the notice to proceed or the contract signed, notice to proceed as quickly as possible following the signature of the contract. It's usually pretty quick. Begin work as soon as possible. Substantial completion is May 21st. Final completion and final acceptance May 28th this summer. Some notes about the schedule. We do see groundwater levels come up as the irrigation season proceeds. We would like for the contractor to avoid that if possible by constructing this earlier in the year. Not sure it's realistic to get it constructed by April 1st when the irrigation season typically starts. But you know, the faster you get it done, the less water you're going to have to deal with historically. Since the dry utility conduit is going to be installed higher than the sewer line, we will consider allowing the contractor to finish the sewer work before installing the conduit if that's something that the contractor is interested in doing. It's gonna need a little creativity in the installation of the conduit. But we do hope you can get out of the water sooner rather than later. Since a major portion of the work will occur in the intersection of Aspen and Maple prior to or during the spring tourism season, I'm sure you know mountain bikes come to town pretty early. It's the city's intention for the contractor to finish work in the intersection and reopen that intersection to traffic as soon as possible. It's preferred but not required that the intersection be closed once. Again, that's what we would prefer. If it's better to install the conduit afterwards, we will allow us a second closure. We want to close it as few times as possible, though. It's a high visibility and high traffic area in Fruita, so you know, we don't want to leave it closed too long or too many times. We would like to see all of the work in Aspen done up to the extents of Maple Street. Again, we want to get that work done before we go north or south along Maple Street. So I think that probably means doing the work in Aspen Avenue first, but again, we're not going to tell you how to do your thing. No incentives for early completion, no liquidated damages on this project. As far as permitting goes, stormwater management permit, contractor pays and manages that. Any dewatering permits that may be necessary, the contractor is on the hook for that. City of Fruita excavation and right-of-way permits, that comes through us. There will be no cost. That basically lets EMS services know where the closures are going to be. So that is something you have to take care of and provide MHTs for that before you will be allowed to get started. Not that big a deal. We usually turn those around pretty quickly. There will be no cost to the contractor for that. Traffic control. The intention of the city is to allow for a full closure on Maple Street north or south of Aspen Avenue in the area of ongoing work only. In other words, if you're working in North Maple, north of Aspen, you can close that section, but South Maple has to be open. Vice versa is true also. Aspen itself can be fully closed while the underground improvements are completed in Aspen Avenue and an all-weather service is installed. I think probably this will be completed before asphalt's available. Don't really know, so millings or road base can be in there. It is on the contractor to maintain that to you know, a good level. It's a very visible part of town. There's quite a bit of traffic through that intersection, so it's going to be important to make sure that that's maintained. Contractor shall ensure access to individual parcels are maintained at all times with minor delays accepted. That's normal stuff. City and the contractor share the responsibility to keep residents informed. That's normal stuff. Door hangers are going to be allowed for that. We'd like to give people a few days notice before we're working in front of their house so they can get their cars moved or whatever. Also, we're going to have to use a variable message board at that intersection a few days ahead of time to announce the closure. If there are more than one closures for Aspen Street, we do want to put those message boards up before both closures or whatever, however many we need. So that may end up in more than 3 days total. I think we had 3 days in the bid schedule, but give us a unit price per day and we'll adjust as needed. Construction comments. Stormwater management's on the contractor, all the permitting stuff on the contractor. So the permits for discharge permits for groundwater mitigation. No additional time or payment will be granted by the city to the contractor for failure to adequately mitigate difficult construction conditions due to unstable soils or high groundwater levels. We do reserve the right to disqualify contractors from award of this contract based on previous project history. No discharge of groundwater shall be made to the city sewer system. Let's see. As far as utilities shown on these plans, they're based on historical records and utility locates provided by you know, the locators and some city personnel. We have tried to locate services. We were not able to locate all of them, but we do have quite a few located and shot with our GPS. And we can provide those locations to the contractor, but it is on the contractor to find those ahead of time and to make sure everything is reconnected. Contractors should be aware that, especially in the older parts of Fruita like this, there may be additional utilities that will not be located, that are basically unknown, and care should be taken during construction. We've worked in Maple Street before, close to this, and had some issues finding water lines that we didn't know were there. Going to be important to have a light touch. It's expected that the contractor shall use trench shielding boxes during construction to minimize risk of damage outside the trench limits. Typical trench width as shown on the project plans shall be adhered to unless otherwise approved of by its project manager. I think we show a 7 or 8 foot typical trench here, which I think is plenty wide to get this done. So again, we're going to be pretty tight about that. We do want a tight trench. All utilities installed on this project, all utilities, shall have tracer wire conforming to city specs installed with them. It's a little difficult to find that spec in our book, so we'll provide that along with the addenda. I believe it's specified in the notes page 2. The dry utility conduit has a locator wire built into it, so you won't need to provide a locator wire for that, but all of the sewer stuff you will, including sewer services. Okay, so as I'm sure most of you are aware, getting a little tighter on what we require for as-builts and knowing where stuff actually is in the ground. So for this and all future projects similar in nature, the city will require the contractor to leave exposed any fitting, change in alignment, tap, connection to existing service line, etc. Any bend in the pipe, anything like that. We want to know where it is. And we will come out and GPS those points as needed. I'm literally 3 minutes away walking. So I can get out there fast. And the intention here is to not slow you guys down at all. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I do have a little disclaimer that we'll try to get there within a half hour. Should be faster than that. Failure on the part of the contractor to notify us, which results in the city being unable to complete a survey on that point. If you bury something without a survey, you're going to have to dig it up. We're really trying to tighten up on this stuff. And I know we're installing tracer wire with all this stuff, but we do want to have all those locations shot as well. So make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're talking to us about that. Bidding requirements and submittals. This is typical. At the bid opening, each bid will be evaluated for responsiveness according to the checklist below. The city reserves the right to waive minor discrepancies in the form or content of the bids. Minimum requirements for responsiveness must be met. Any missing item from the checklist below is cause for rejection of the entire bid. So make sure you submit all this stuff. We don't usually have a problem with this. So this is just our typical stuff. Bid bond, insurance certificates, make sure that you acknowledge the addendums. You do not need to provide a signed copy of those addendums. You just acknowledge them on the most recent bid schedule. Make sure you sign that. We will be releasing a new bid schedule with the revisions with the addendum. Need to have a signed bid form. That's the bid schedule and total base bid amount listed on that signed bid form. Okay, questions received before this meeting. Can we change the curb and gutter item from a square foot item to a linear foot item? Yes, if you were watching, we had a bid a couple weeks ago for an Ash Street project. This was a change we made for that project, so we have no problem changing that to a linear foot price rather than square footage. We will change that in the revised bid schedule. Next question, can we add a pay item to account for 6-inch thick concrete driveways? I typed this up before I came up with a better answer for this. It may be 8-inch thick driveways. Rather than adding a new pay item to the bid schedule, please include any driveway replacement concrete in pay item 28, which is 8-inch thick concrete. In the past, we've seen a lot of 8-inch thick driveways in that area. So we're going to go back with 8-inch thick, even though I think our standard is 6 inches. The city will revise the quantity shown on the current bid schedule to include any driveway concrete that may be necessary in the new item. I'm sorry, in item 28. We'll revise that in the bid schedule. Some of the locations shown on the plans put handholds in driveways. Do we want handholds in driveways? No, we do not. Some of those handhold locations will change during construction based on utility locates that will probably be provided when you guys call them in. So no, we don't want anything in a driveway. I don't think that's going to be that big of a deal to move those around during construction. Does the city have more information regarding the type and installation location of the conduit? We will be releasing more information about the conduit, including the rough size. It's an interesting deal. It's got 3 1.25 inch pipes and 3 smaller pipes wrapped in one wrapper, basically, which ends up being about a 4-inch diameter pipe. We're going to provide more information about that with the addenda. We also have a little more information on where we want it in the trench. We do only want one trench. Obviously, that puts one utility close to another utility. We're going to try to keep them at least 3 feet apart, hence the widened trench section. Shouldn't be that much of a problem for that, but be aware of that. We're also going to have a little field trip out to see the conduit at the Fruita City Shops after this meeting. You're all invited. 900 East Kiefer Avenue here in Fruita. We can also go visit it before the bid tomorrow or Thursday if you want to see it. It's probably a good idea. Just call me and we'll set up a time to go view that. Will the city consider revising the design for the new manhole in Aspen Avenue to allow for the removal of the existing manhole just east of the proposed location of manhole 1, rather than trying to fit a new manhole in that close proximity? And yes, we're going to revise the design to show the removal of the manhole just east of manhole, I believe it's manhole 1 in the intersection. We will extend the amount of PVC pipe, I think it's called temporary connection in the current contract documents. We're going to extend the length of that pipe. Hopefully that will allow us a little more room to adjust if we need to the location of the new manhole. I do see that being, this hopefully will allow us to precast that manhole rather than pouring it in place. Look for that revision in the set of plans that we're going to issue with the addendum. The other thing that does is we're going to move the alignment of the line going north to line up more with the line going south. We're also going to be removing manhole B2, which is south of Aspen Avenue, and straightening that alignment to avoid a jog in the line. We're also going to, in order to stay parallel with the right-of-way and not have skewed lines in our right-of-way, we're also going to remove and reset manhole B4, which is very shallow. We redid that manhole, it was 10 or 12 years ago. So it is a fairly new manhole. It's in good shape. We don't want to demo it and buy a new one. So we're going to try to move that manhole, basically pick it up and move it to the west. Right now, the plans show tying into that manhole where it is. We're going to change that. That'll be on the revised plans as well. So look for that with the addendum. That's all we got for questions before this meeting. The question period is open until noon tomorrow. We will get that addendum out as soon as we can following that, the end of the question period. How to submit your bid. This is it's all different right now. So what we require is we need to have paper form in an envelope, just like we always have, delivered to the Civic Center by the bid opening, which is 1:30 on Friday, this Friday, February 5th. Bids should be delivered to the north entrance of the building, kind of the back entrance. Please call the City Administration Department at 858-3663 or the Engineering Department at 858-8377, or you can call me on my cell, 210-0716. Somebody will come open the door and accept and timestamp your bid. Attending the bid opening, this bid opening will be held via a live internet feed. Attendance in person by the public, contractor, suppliers will not be allowed due to the COVID-19 outbreak. A link to that bid opening meeting will be provided in the addendum. Hopefully, again, Wednesday or Thursday. With that, that's our agenda. Open it up to questions now.
Great, and again, if you have any questions to ask, you can type them in the chat box. Should be in your middle toolbar on Zoom, or you can raise your hand. You can raise your hand by hitting the raise hand button in the middle of your toolbar as well, and that will alert the host that you'd like to ask a question. You'll be unmuted then. So we'll give it a few minutes to send any questions. We'll answer those in the order they are received. All right, first question that we received, Chris, is the city requiring a half/early mix to reduce cure times on the crosspan on East Aspen Avenue, allowing loading by traffic at an earlier date?
Yes, I think we will need to have a high early type mix in that VPAN.
All right, again, any questions that you have for the project team can be provided in the chat box, or if you'd like to ask your question over Zoom, you can hit the raise hand button and you will be unmuted in the order that we received that you raised your hand. All right, Justin, I will go ahead and unmute you now if you want to make sure you're unmuted on your end as well. Are you there, Justin?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
So going back to what you were talking about earlier with you or your staff doing the as-builts, what are you requiring for construction survey?
Well, as far as layout goes, that's going to be on the subcontractor for the prime. As far as builts, addition of as-builts afterwards, we just like and invert elevations for the new manholes. We will take care of the rest of the locations as far as bends, taps, all of that stuff. So.
Okay, so you're just looking for invert elevations and preliminary or design layout.
Yeah, yes, inverts and rims.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you for the question. Again, any questions can be provided in the chat box, or you can hit your raise hand button. You'll be unmuted in the order that we received them. If you called in, you can hit *9, and that will let us know that you'd like to be unmuted. We will unmute you then to ask your question as well. All right, we do have another question, Chris. It looks like the question is sipping water base or epoxy?
I'm assuming that the manhole in Aspen Avenue, we're going to revise that to show a precast typical manhole with a 2/10 drop across there. So I don't think epoxy or any of that is going to be necessary. I think we're going to be able to do a precast manhole there.
And thank you for your correction. It looks like, sorry, striping water base.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know, let me get back to you on that. We do have a spec for that. So I'll put that in the addendum.
Thank you for the question. Again, any questions you can provide in the chat box, or you can raise your hand using the raise hand button in the middle of your toolbar, and we will unmute you in the order that we received that you raised your hand. All right, again, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat box, or you can raise your hand. We'll probably do one last call for questions now. And one other question that we did want to ask, if people are interested in coming out to the Fruita City Shops building to see the conduit, you can say yes or no in the chat, and we will get that over to our project team. So again, if you're interested in seeing the conduit at the Fruita City Shops, either was it this afternoon or tomorrow?
Yeah, following the meeting, or anytime tomorrow or Thursday, just let us know and we can make sure the gate's open.
And we'll leave another minute or two for questions if anything comes up. All right, well, we want to thank everyone for joining us for this pre-bid meeting for the Maple Street Phase 2 improvements. If you have any questions, I'll send it back to Chris. Any closing thoughts?
Might behoove you to come see the conduit. It's a little bigger than just what people typically bore in. It's about 4 inches around. And again, it includes 6 different pipes. So if you have time, you want to see it, we are open to showing it. That's really all.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining, and we'll see you at the bid opening on Friday afternoon. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.